Wow, stories.
My husband and I have been married for about a year now, and last year he purchased our home before we got married. During the time that he was looking for our home, he was advised not to add me onto the loan due to my student loans, possibly having an effect on his ability to purchase us a decent property. At the time, I totally understood how my student loan could have an effect on him purchasing a home. At the time, I agreed with him and our realtor that this was the best decision and was reassured that once we were married, I would be added onto the deed with no problem. Fast forward to a few months after we bought the home and had gotten married. I brought up to him last summer that I thought it was time for him to add me onto the deed. I have looked up the information at the local county clerk's office, and it really wasn't that expensive to do the process. But he would have to be the one to do it. He told me he hadn't looked into the process yet and would make sure to get it done. Fast forward, it's been over a year and some change now. We've been married a year and been in the house over a year, and I'm still not on the deed. This whole situation is really frustrating for me because I remember when we were looking for a property, my older sisters heavily encouraged me to make sure that I was on the deed for the property, which at the time I lied to them and told them that I was, so that they would stop asking me questions about it. Money is definitely not the issue. So I'm wondering if the comments from his dad in the past, where he encouraged him to make sure he kept things separate, is the reason why he hasn't added me to the deed. His father in the past has made comments about me being selfish for not sharing my earnings from a lawsuit when we were dating back in college, as well as making sure that the house was only in his name. I do understand that his dad has been hurt in the past and his many marriages, and that is a possible reason why he speaks this way, or feels this way. We do share a joint account, which the mortgage is paid out of, so I do understand based on the law in the state that we live in, that this is shared property due to the shared account. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I'm becoming very frustrated with the situation, and I'm trying to figure out how to bring this conversation up to my husband without it becoming a fight. I have a potential job offer in another state, since I travel for work, and I think we should have this conversation before I decide or leave for this position. Any advice that you can give would be very helpful. To add, I've seen this question come up a couple of different times, so I'm just going to add an edit here for better clarification. We have been together for 5 years and married for a year and 2 months. Before we started looking for a home, his grandmother just sold her house and gifted him $50,000, which he could use to put as a down payment on our first home. He decided to use that money for the down payment of our home. Like stated above, we were advised not to have me on the loan due to my student loan debt at the time, but I was told that I should be added to the deed once we were married. We were looking for this home together as a marital asset because we were due to be married within a month and a half of purchasing the home. We literally got married 1 month after we got the house. In terms of the bills, we do have a joint account, which I contribute to on a bi-weekly basis, and he typically contributes once a month because he only gets paid once a month. Yes, he is an attorney, and yes, I am a therapist for our profession. I am not leaving my spouse for a job. I am a travel therapist, and I take contracts outside of our city and state for contract positions. I have been doing this for the last 2.5 years. I find it very frustrating because during his time in law school, I held it down and I paid the majority of our bills. Also, my salary when I go on contracts for 3 months can be equal or greater than his attorney's salary, which also means that I am technically contributing more to our household. We currently have 2 joint accounts together, one at a regular brick and mortar bank, and one which is Ally Online Banking. I have 3 separate accounts of my own that I maintain by myself. I have considered looking into buying my own property, such as a duplex, but like stated in other comments, I have to essentially look at a lawyer to see if that would be a marital asset if I'm not going to be added onto the deed for this home. Almost forgot. I wanted to add that once he received the $50,000, it was added into our joint Ally account, which I also put money towards. So, in my opinion, if he pulled that $50,000 from our joint account, I feel like I still put money towards it, if that makes sense. Now for an update. Here's the update I know so many of you have been waiting for. Last week, I sat down with my husband, and I laid out my concerns that I had regarding not being added to the deed. I did consult a family law attorney just to see if what I was told was a lie. I was very honest with him about the information I received from the attorney. Regarding my student loans, there was a concern that if a lien was ever to be put on my student loans, they could do a property lien. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that correctly, which he was unsure of at the time and was advised to just keep me off until we were married. When I asked him why he hadn't done it yet, his honest answer was that it had slipped his mind with everything going on this past year, which there has been a lot of stuff with work and just our life in general. He apologized and stated that it was never his intention to make me feel like I was not a part of this house and that we were not a team. He told me that he loved me and that he would make sure moving forward that we made all the decisions together. With that being said, he made an appointment with the title group that originally did our deed at the signing to have me added to the deed. We went in yesterday together, hand in hand, and signed a new warranty deed. In regards to his father having any influence on his decision, he stated that his dad did not have any influence on his decision, and he does not plan on having a marriage like his father's past marriages. He said he actually got annoyed at him saying that and had asked him to stop. I know many of you said to make sure I have my own attorney to look over whatever is being signed. I did mention this to my husband, and he said he was completely fine with me having my own attorney, who he doesn't know, look over paperwork to make me feel more comfortable. He stated that Reddit gave me some good advice on that regard, and to always make sure to have your own attorney. I did ask him if he wanted to do a post-nuptial agreement, where he would keep his $50,000 if we were ever to sell the house, and he completely disagreed. He stated that he believed that that money was gifted to us because his grandmother knew that we were engaged and wanted a house. We did have a conversation about why I may have been reserved to bring up this topic to him. I did let him know that I had lied to my sister last year, which he was very surprised when I told him that. I did explain to him the reasons why my sister's concerns are important for me to be on the deed, and he agreed. For those of you that were encouraging divorce, like I stated before, I did not want to divorce my husband, and I still do not want to divorce my husband. For those of you saying that because I travel for work, he may be worried about infidelity, I did ask him that question, and he stated that he has never once doubted me or thought that I would cheat on him while out on the assignment for work. I want to say thank you to everyone who is encouraging me to have this open conversation with my husband. It brought up a lot of emotions that we both had, and it was really good to get this off my chest and be done with it. I appreciate all of the feedback. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Here's what I would do. I would tell him that you want to share everything. You already have a joint bank account and you want to share the home you own. There need not be any worry because you will never hurt him. You just want to share your lives forever and emphasize forever. You want to secure the future for both of you and then make the process something you do together. Kind of like getting married all over again, but this time it's your home that you can own together. Sorry for sounding sappy, but his dad needs to get out of your husband's head. Comment 2. You should do as his dad asked and keep everything separate. That means you don't contribute toward the house payment. It's not your house. It's never going to be your house. It's his house and his loan. Open your own account. Have your paychecks deposited into it and put some amount into the shared account for your half of the bills that are both of yours. And again, that house payment isn't one of them. What's he going to say? Is he going to insist you pay for half of a house he refuses to give you ownership of? He can try, I guess. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through this journey. So, after we got the deed situation sorted out, I thought things would settle down. But life has a way of throwing curveballs. Just a few days after we signed the new warranty deed, I received a call from my potential employer in another state. They offered me the job, and it was a significant pay raise. I was thrilled, but also anxious because it meant another big conversation with my husband. I sat him down that evening and told him about the offer. He was supportive, but also concerned about the logistics. We discussed the possibility of him moving with me, but his job as an attorney is pretty stable here, and he's not keen on starting over in a new state. We decided that I would take the job, and we'd try a long-distance arrangement for a while. It wasn't ideal, but we both agreed it was worth a shot. The first few days were hectic. I had to pack and find a temporary place to stay and sort out travel arrangements. My husband helped me with everything, and it felt like we were a team again. But then, something unexpected happened. While I was packing, I found an old letter tucked away in one of his drawers. It was from his father, dated just a few months before we got married. The letter was filled with advice, but one part stood out. His father strongly urged him to keep the house in his name only, citing his own failed marriages as a cautionary tale. I was furious and hurt. I confronted my husband about the letter, and he admitted that his father's advice had influenced his initial hesitation to add me to the deed. He apologized profusely and said he didn't want to hurt me, but he was torn between his love for me and his father's warnings. This revelation forced me to make a hard choice. Could I trust him completely, knowing that his father's influence was still lingering in the background? We had a long, emotional conversation that night. He assured me that he was committed to our marriage and that his father's advice would no longer dictate his decisions. I wanted to believe him, but a part of me was still skeptical. I decided to take the job and give us some space to figure things out. The first week in the new state was pretty up and down. The job was demanding and I barely had time to think about anything else. But every night I'd call my husband and we'd talk for hours. It was comforting, but also bittersweet. I missed him and I could tell he missed me too. But there was an underlying tension that neither of us could ignore. One evening I received a call from my sister. She had heard about my new job and wanted to catch up. During our conversation, she mentioned something that caught me off guard. She said she had run into my husband's father at a local event, and he had made some snide comments about our marriage. According to her, he implied that our relationship was doomed to fail because of my career and our long-distance arrangement. I was livid. I called my husband immediately and told him what my sister had said. He was equally upset and promised to talk to his father. The next day, he called me back and said he had confronted his father, who denied making any such comments. My husband believed him, but I wasn't so sure. This incident added another layer of complexity to our already strained relationship. As the days went by, I started to reflect on our past. I remembered how supportive my husband had been during his time in law school, and how I had held down the fort financially. I thought about the sacrifices we had both made for each other, and how we had always managed to come out stronger. But this time felt different. The distance, both physical and emotional, was taking its toll. One night, while I was lying in bed, I had an epiphany. I realized that my husband's actions were not just influenced by his father's advice, but also by his own fears and insecurities. He had always been the stable one, the provider, and the thought of losing control over something as significant as our home terrified him. This understanding didn't make the situation any easier, but it gave me a new perspective. I decided to take a proactive approach. I suggested that we see a marriage counselor, even if it meant doing sessions over video calls. My husband agreed, and we started therapy the following week. The sessions were intense, but they helped us uncover a lot of underlying issues that we hadn't addressed before. We talked about our fears, our expectations, and our commitment to each other. It was a painful process, but it was also healing. During one of the sessions, my husband opened up about his childhood. He revealed that his parents' tumultuous marriage had left him with deep-seated fears about commitment and trust. His father's multiple marriages and divorces had made him wary of fully trusting anyone, even me. This was a breakthrough moment for us. It helped me understand why he had been so hesitant to add me to the deed, and why his father's advice had such a strong impact on him. As we continued therapy, we started to rebuild our trust. My husband made a conscious effort to include me in all financial decisions, and I made an effort to be more understanding of his fears. We still had a long way to go, but we were making progress. In the meantime, my new job was going well. I was excelling in my role, and the pay raise was a huge relief. But I missed my husband terribly. The long-distance arrangement was harder than I had anticipated, and there were days when I felt incredibly lonely. But I knew that this was a temporary situation, and we were both committed to making it work. As I look back on the past week, I realize that this experience has brought us closer in some ways. We've had to confront our fears and insecurities head on, and it has made us stronger as a couple. We still have a lot of work to do, but I'm hopeful that we can overcome these challenges together.